The first video I ever posted here on YouTube was titled Naruto vs Luffy, The Unbiased Truth. Now it's a little over a year later, I'm a lot better at editing, I have far more knowledge when it comes to power scaling, and thanks to you guys, I've reached 1,000 subscribers. 1,000 might not sound like a lot, but it is a huge deal for me. So to celebrate reaching 1K, I've decided to remake that old video. But I'm not just going to be doing a rehash of an old video, no, that would be boring. And for a 1000 special, I would want something a bit more interesting. So not only will I be talking about Naruto vs Luffy at their strongest, but I'll be doing 4 different fights. Pre-timeskip Luffy vs OG Naruto, Dressrosa Luffy vs Sage Mode Naruto, Raid Luffy vs War Arc Naruto, and Gear 5 Luffy vs Baryon Mode Naruto. And let's start with the first round, pre-timeskip Luffy vs OG Naruto. The best pre-timeskip feat that Luffy would actually scale to would be him punching Crocodile through multiple layers of bedrock under the Alabasta capital. A feat like this would require city levels of power, and during the Enies Lobby arc, base Luffy, mind you a stronger base Luffy, is fighting pretty equally with Blueno. Blueno, as we know by the Doriki power levels, is 4.8 times weaker than base Lucci, and Luffy, after fighting Blueno and eating some meat, is now able to fight on par with base Lucci. This would then put Luffy higher into city level, and as I've discussed in many other videos, Gear 2 should be a 10 times power and speed amp, which would then get Luffy to mountain level. Naruto does surprisingly have pretty similar scaling. We know Naruto was able to stop Orochimaru's giant snake, which was charging forward with town levels of energy, and later on, One-Tail Naruto forced Sasuke into using the second version of the Curse Mark, which we know is a 10 times amp on top of the first version. This would therefore put One-Tail Naruto at large town level. However, he would scale a lot higher while using the Rasengan. This is because the very first time he used it, he managed to pretty much one-shot a durability enhanced Kabuto, someone who has been estimated to be on Kakashi's level. Kakashi at the same time would downscale from Kisame, who would downscale from Sasuke's Kirin, which comes out at mountain level. When we don't know any exact values for downscaling, what we'll do most of the time is put them at the tier below where the characters scale. This would then mean that Kisame downscales to baseline mountain level, and Kakashi would downscale to city level plus, or 53.15 megatons of TNT. One-tailed Naruto then makes him 10 times stronger, which would put Naruto's Vermilion Rasengan at mountain level. Speed-wise, base Luffy would scale to around Mach 7557, as he would be 6.34 times faster than Khalifa, who is capable of performing lightning speed feats when dodging Nami's lightning. Gear 2 then amps his speed by 10, which would put him at Sub-Relativistic Plus. There are of course ways of getting him into FTL before the time skip, but as Luffy isn't even comparable to a Lightspeed Kizaru, it makes more sense to say that Luffy would be slower than Light before the time skip. Naruto's speed is also relatively easy. We know that his one-tailed form should be relative to Kakashi in speed, as with the QB influence, he was relative to Haku, who could intercept attacks from Sabusa, who in turn should be pretty relative to Kakashi. Kakashi should then scale to around Mach 7981, as he's able to intercept Kakuzu's False Darkness. So with that, I think it's pretty obvious that Luffy would just outscale and as such pretty easily beat Naruto. While the Rasengan would be powerful enough to do some pretty serious damage to Luffy and could one-shot him in base, Naruto just isn't fast enough to keep up with Gear 2, meaning Luffy would blitz and one-shot Naruto just like he did against Blueno. Moving on to the second round, which is Dressrosa Luffy versus Sage Mode Naruto. And while I'm saying Sage Mode Naruto, it's more just like pain fight Naruto in general, so yeah, he would have access to like 6 tails, but yeah. Both Naruto and Luffy get pretty massive power upgrades after the time skip. For Naruto, in Sage Mode, he's capable of fighting on par with the Diva Path, who can casually blow away Konoha with island levels of power. On top of that, his Chibaku Tensei has been calced at country level, and with Sage Mode, Naruto would scale to that. And of course, Six Tails Naruto would then scale above that. I have seen calcs that would get the Ichibaku Tensei to Continental or even higher, but from what I've read of other people scaling the series and scaling specifically this feat, these aren't as reliable because they use weird angles to calculate heights for stuff like Nagato's tree and other things like that, which makes those calcs more unreliable. It also just isn't as consistent. Luffy scaling is a bit more complicated as there isn't much to go off of for early post time skip, but we can get a pretty good idea for his strength. Base Hody should at least scale to Gear 2 pre-time skip Luffy, as even while underwater, which would give him a 2x amp, he still got dogged on by Zoro, who in turn would scale far above Gear 2 pre-time skip Luffy. This is important as Hody chugs a handful of energy steroids, but Gear 3 Luffy is still able to overpower him. One of these pills, or energy steroids, doubles a person's strength, and this stacks, so 2 pills is a 4x amp, 3 pills is an 8x amp, and so on and so forth. Since we don't know how many he ate, I'll lowball it and say he ate 15, as that's the amount he also dropped. This would have made him 32,768 times stronger, putting him at country level. Gear 4 is then directly stated to be several times stronger than Luffy's limit, making him 4 times stronger than Gear 3, and as such scaling him higher into country level. For speed, Naruto would have reached Kakashi's level of speed, which would put him at Mach 7,891. Sage Mode Naruto should then be at bare minimum a 10x amp per speed, as its effects are greater than the second version of the curse mark. I don't think applying this to speed is that out there, as even a casual Pain is pretty clearly shown as being much faster than Kakashi, and because one of the other Pains intercepts a Chidori from several meters away. So a 10x amp for Sage Mode should probably actually be a lowball. And this would then put Sage Mode Naruto at around 9% the speed of light. Luffy's speed is also pretty easy to find. In base, he should now have surpassed his pre-time skip Gear 2 self, as he can casually dodge pacifista lasers, something that Gear 2 Luffy struggled with in pre-time skip. This means that we can then just apply the Gear 2 multiplier again, which would get Luffy to around 80% the speed of light, arguably faster as he has surpassed his Gear 2 self and is not just matching it. On the surface, it might look like Luffy wins this too, but the problem for Luffy is that while Gear 4 can overpower Naruto and potentially one-shot him using the King Kong gun, Gear 4 Luffy isn't as fast as Gear 2 Luffy, as I explained in my Luffy speed downgrade video, and as such, he would more so be on par with Naruto in speed. But due to Naruto's wide variety of abilities like Shadow Clones and the Rasen Shuriken, which would definitely be powerful enough to damage and potentially even cut Luffy in half, I don't see Luffy taking the win. Luffy would most likely just get overwhelmed with a barrage of Rasen Shurikens, and if Luffy tries to get the speed advantage by using Gear 2, he won't be strong enough to deal any real damage to Naruto, especially when you take into account that Naruto can heal, and this is also without talking about 6 or even 8 Tails Naruto, both of which would outscale Gear 4. Moving on to the third round, we have a War Arc Naruto, which by this I mean pre-Sage of 6 Paths Naruto, versus Onigashima Raid Luffy, which also just means pre-advanced Conqueror's Haki Luffy. I do find it pretty impressive just how strong shonen protagonists can get within the span of a few days. Luffy was trapped in Udon prison for like 2 weeks, and in that time he went from getting one-shot in Gear 4 by Kaido to withstanding the same attack in base. This would mean Luffy got at least 40 times stronger, putting base Luffy at country level. Gear 4 would then amp that by another 40 times, and as such he would reach Continental, and the King Kong gun would then most likely reach into the multi-continental levels of power, as it would be many times more powerful than its regular attacks. KCM2 Naruto, on the other hand, would scale to the likes of Jupito, who is capable of performing continental level feats while in his incomplete form, and he would also just have some scaling to the Ten Tails, which can not only perform other continental level feats, but also 2 multi-continental ones. You could also argue that he would have some form of relativity to first form Jubidara, but it's not really necessary to talk about that as he just outscales Luffy either way. For speed, base Luffy is shown as being pretty on par with Zoro, which would then put him at a similar tier to Marco, as he himself implies that Zoro and Sanji are above him. This is important as Marco has a 3 times FTL feat when dodging Queen's lasers, and as such Gear 2 Luffy being 10 times faster would mean he reaches FTL plus or around 30 times the speed of light. On the other hand, Naruto, while in KCM1, is able to dodge a point-blank punch from the Raikage, who has been stated to be near light speed in the databooks. I've calced this feat at around 1.3 times FTL, and since Naruto can combine KCM2 with Sage Mode, and Sage Mode is a 10 times speed amp, it would put Naruto at 13 times faster than light. This seems pretty similar to the previous round, where Luffy has the speed advantage, but by having that advantage, he is weaker than Naruto. Unlike the last round, however, Gear 4 is also weaker than Naruto. But even though that is the case, I believe Luffy still has a shot at winning, and that is because of Advanced Armament Haki. Advanced Armament Haki, or Rio as it's also referred to in the fandom, gives a person the ability to bypass other people's durability in order to damage their organs directly. What this means is that with his roughly 3 times speed advantage in Gear 2, Luffy could take the win if he's able to land enough of these attacks and destroy Naruto's organs. Problem is that Naruto is able to heal his organs, and as such, Luffy would need to be able to attack Naruto continuously for an extended amount of time, basically outpacing Naruto's regen and causing him to eventually pass out due to, like, organ failure. But Naruto not only has shadow clones that could overwhelm Luffy, but he can also encase himself in a massive Kurama avatar that would make it impossible for Luffy to land a hit on him. So I'm gonna have to say that this is a 50-50, or maybe more like a 60-40 in Naruto's favor. Either way, I would say both are tied in terms of wins, with Luffy having 1.5 points from winning one match and then being questionable in one match, and Naruto having 1.5 points for the same reason. So the deciding factor is going to be the final match, Gear 5 or current Luffy versus adult Naruto. Naruto's scaling takes quite a turn after they beat Madara, with Madara having like small planetary level scaling through spreading the Shinju tree, all the way to Kaguya, who can create and destroy dimensions that contain planets and even a star. And while Naruto wouldn't fully scale to this in Shippuden, in Boruto he power cliffs the entirety of Shippuden to the point where he could beat most of the verse in base. As even with a good amount of chakra being drained from his body, in base he can still go toe-to-toe with fused Momoshiki, who is an equal to, if not superior to, Kaguya. This would then put base Naruto at least baseline star level. With Sage Mode being a 10 times amp, it would then get him to large star level, and of course he would be somewhat higher with Kurama and Baryon Mode. For Luffy, with Gear 5 he is on par with Kaido, someone who should have some relativity to old Whitebeard while off his meds. This Whitebeard is heavily implied to be capable of shaking the entire planet, and due to the larger size of the One Piece world, doing something like that would require moon levels of power. This level of power is also backed up by things like Blackbeard after just getting the Gurgurnomi and being completely inexperienced with it, on top of the fact that he's just generally far weaker than Whitebeard, being able to perform multi-continental level earthquakes when sending tsunamis all the way to Sabaody. There is also the argument that Whitebeard can destroy the entire planet, which would get him to large planetary, but not only is that a highball, it also doesn't really change anything because Naruto is just a lot stronger. Speed-wise, KCM2 plus Sage Mode would scale to around 13 times FTL as mentioned earlier. Since base Naruto, while Chakra Drain can keep up with Momoshiki, it would mean that base Naruto now reaches those levels of speed. Yes, Sage of 6 Paths Chakra would have made Naruto faster and as such put Kaguya and Momoshiki at above 13 times FTL, but we don't have any concrete speed differences between these two forms, and as such I can't give a definitive speed amp. So just think of this as kind of a lowball. Either way, if we take the 13 times FTL value and we multiply that by 10 for Sage Mode again, it would get Naruto to 130 times FTL at a bare minimum. For Luffy, after obtaining Advanced Conqueror's Haki, he's capable of keeping up in base with Hybrid Kaido. This same Kaido is able to move at around 17 times FTL with a Thunder Bagua. This wouldn't fully scale to base Luffy, seeing as the Thunder Bagua is specifically a technique that amps Kaido's speed, so it would be more fair to say that base Luffy scales to around the 9 to 10 times FTL ranges. This is also consistent when considering the fact that Gear 5 Luffy can perform 11 times the speed of light feats when outspeeding one of Kizaru's lasers. And this would then mean that Gear 2 Luffy is around 90 to 100 times FTL, actually meaning that he is for once slower than Naruto. So yeah, Luffy would not only get one-shot by Naruto, but he also just gets blitzed, unless he uses Gear 2. Wait, who's that? Oh fuck, no, it's a One Piece Glacier, fuck.
Well, actually, Debunk, Luffy has Toon Force, and as such, he can turn all of Naruto's attacks into rubber. He can also heal any injury, because he has body transmutation.
I mean, yeah, Luffy does have a form of Toon Force, but that doesn't make him immortal or omnipotent. Sure, he can turn things into rubber, but that doesn't mean he can turn anything into rubber, like a Rasengan, especially when the power difference is so massive. Toon Force is just like any other ability. You would have to show some form of proof that Luffy could overpower large star levels of energy and turn them into rubber. And we know Luffy can't just heal from any form of damage, as we've seen him take lasting damage. Luffy putting his scars back on his body doesn't mean he can heal, because Luffy didn't take any damage. It's just a cartoony reaction to the Conqueror's Haki roar. We see this stuff many times in things like Tom and Jerry. Even if we said all of this was true, Naruto would still just blitz and vaporize Luffy with a Rasengan.
Oh, well, then you're just a Naruto Glacier.
That's funny, I don't even like Naruto. In fact, One Piece is one of my favorite mangas. So why would I overhype a series I don't even like?
When the movie, everyone knows Kevin Bacon was a star of Footloose. It was a huge movie. He was the lead.
Well, that's that. Naruto wins. I didn't mention this at the beginning of the video, but I am truly grateful that I have reached 1,000 subs. As a kid, I always wanted to be a YouTuber, and being able to make videos that over 1,000 people thought were good enough to subscribe to really makes me happy. And so from now on, I'll try to get a video out every week, but I can't promise anything. Just know that there will at least be a video every other week. So thanks for watching. If you want to join my Discord, I have a link in the description where you can give me ideas for future videos or make suggestions on feats you want me to calc. And so, I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.